Hello and welcome to today's Rocksmith developer stream. I'm your host and the community developer for Rocksmith, Doug Lilly. Welcome to my dining area that look. I never eat here. It's my bedroom or it's the couch. It's never here, but we have the table and chairs, so I thought I'd use it. Welcome to today's stream. If this is your first time joining us, thank you for giving us a shot. Typically what we do is what we're going to do today. We are going to have some guests to talk on the stream with us live. This right now is live. And then we're going to have a couple performances and other educational segments from some of our staff that will be pre-recorded. But right now we are live. As always, we're going to have questions. So if you have questions for us, make sure you hit up UB Jurassic in the chat. That is Brian Turner. He is the community manager based out of North Carolina. He'll take your questions, send them on to me, and then throughout the stream, we'll answer some of those. We're also going to have some giveaways later on in the stream. We've got a couple of packs from Ernie Ball, as normal. And this week, we are giving away 5 copies of a different song pack. I believe it's 80s Mix 6. That'll happen later in the stream, so hang out for that. Right now, let's go ahead and say hello to our guests for today. Let me pull them up on my screen so I can see their faces along with you. With me right now, I have Rai Kin and Luis Mendes.
Welcome, hey, Doug.
Guys. Hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Regular viewers of the Rocksmith stream probably recognize Rai Kin as one of our note trackers, currently a moderator of musical content. And then also with us, Luis, you are on the community team in Ubisoft Brazil, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm the community team in Brazil.
And so you work on Rocksmith as well as Just Dance?
Yes, I work with Rocksmith and Just Dance, and sometimes on other games like Assassin's Creed, and Watch Dogs.
Sure, whatever needs a hand there. When I first joined Ubisoft, my first role was on Just Dance as well.
Really?
Yeah. It's ironic considering my screen name, but I wasn't allowed to use it, which is why you see me as UB Vertigo in some places. But yeah. Dancing is fun. I was actually wearing my Just Dance t-shirt yesterday. I should have saved it for today. So you all host typically a stream from Ubisoft Brazil. Is that weekly?
Yes.
Tell us about the stream. Tell us about what you do in Brazil.
Yeah, well, my first role in Ubisoft was the director of the live stream, like all the technological things, like the camera, the streaming software, yeah, all the mixers and everything. And then we created that show to be like a community live stream, so we can talk with community and they see us like a face, not just like a brand.
Right. How many people are usually part of that stream? Is it like a rotating cast, or is it a pretty solid?
The community team in Brazil is 4 people. It's me, Guilherme, now Stefan is the new one, and Nicolas. And we are all rotating. I am always there because I'm mixing the audio and cutting the scenes. But every week we have some influencers come to our studio to play with us the games.
Cool. And I think you've had some it's a sort of Ubisoft variety stream, right? Like you don't just stick with one or two games.
Yeah.
You sort of go to
it's
a
variety.
Yeah.
I'm just a little nervous.
No, you're good. You're good, man.
We play when a game's launched. We play the game, and when we don't have a launch in some time, we play like old games and fun games like Uno.
Yeah. Cool. Rai Kin, you just showed us before we started a bit of a tragedy that you've experienced.
I don't know if you was. Well, yeah.
Do you already put it away?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
This accident happened. This Gibson. This is like, I put so much heart and energy and money into this thing, and like last year, I was just nothing crazy. I was just teaching a guitar lesson, and the thing fell on the floor in the wrong way. And I knew from when it hit the ground, it was like the wrong kind of sound, and something was definitely wrong. And then that happened. So I had taken this back, and it took a long time to get fixed at a local guitar repair shop. They glued it, and coincidentally, on the last day in California before all bars were shut down, I actually had a gig, and I was playing that Sunday. And this guy was in a double case, and like it was in my trunk somehow. Pulled it out, and it was snapped in the exact same place. So, luckily, I have many other guitars in my high-tech note tracking studio here, which is my bedroom.
Toy Machine SH said that Dan is crying. I don't know if that's true, but we can pretend it is. He can't say anything. He can't say anything to dispute us right now. At least
I'm
not that the
thinking of
chat
making a new purchase, though.
people are paying their respects in chat at the moment, though. Rye, wanted to ask you a little bit about plateauing. You've been playing guitar for quite a while, and I'm sure, I assume at least at some points during your journey, you've hit some plateaus. Do you have any advice for how to sort of overcome those moments where you just feel like you're not progressing, or maybe even slipping back a touch?
Yeah, well, I get that question from students all the time, and there's two things happening. Like, most guitar teachers going to tell you, nope, slow it down, practice methodically, and just you're going up a slope. You gotta, you can't run before you walk, so you have to practice the scale slowly, so it's perfect, and then slowly, gradually you will make progress, and in theory, in 20 years you'll be like a master of guitar from all that practice. And that's true to an extent, but also, I mean, when you do hit those plateaus or maybe blockers, I don't know, you just feel like you're not making progress. Sometimes you just kind of got to come at it with a new mindset, maybe even take a step back, reassess what you're doing, maybe look for, a lot of times I think it's like stagnation of your influences. You're sort of bored of the music, and you're trying to play a certain style, or let's say you want to, like, you spend years and years trying to sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Jimi Hendrix or something like that, and you just feel like you're not getting, that's like, what? Okay, I mean, I can do this, but it's not getting to the next level of like professional grade, and everything's perfect and clean. So sometimes you just kind of, it's okay to put the guitar down. I mean, I've never put the guitar down for more than like a week in my entire life since I started guitar playing when I was 13. But when I say put the guitar down, I mean like for a day.
Yeah.
Go out, take a walk, get some influences.
Like, don't let yourself get more angry about.
Yeah. Just stop. Just think of a way around the obstacle, not just banging against it. So at the same time, though, I always tell students, like, it's okay to push yourself on technique, because even if you're just flailing and you're like, I know this sucks or something like that, that's how you make breakthroughs. And you might one day, just out of the blue, you're like, hey, you know what? I did an upstroke that time on this and it sounded awesome. Like, wait a minute, let me reassess everything I've done. Now I'm going to do an upstroke every time. And that might like just get you over that little bump, So yeah. It's a combination of things, but it is true that slow and steady like wins the race.
Okay, so slow and steady, and then also maybe just clearing your head, getting out of your head.
Yeah, and just reaching too. You know what I mean? Pushing your head.
Thank you very much, Rye. Louis. So I think most people know, if they read, you are our performer today. You're our first Ubisoft presence performing since the Opeth stream at the beginning of April. So you play guitar. How did you start? What did you start getting into guitar?
I started playing bass.
Okay.
Actually, I'm a bass player because my hands, it's really big. I have so much difficulty playing guitar because it's so small. But I started playing bass since I was 12 years old, 10 years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And I always loved rock and roll, and I always wanted to learn how to play the songs. The first thing I learned was a Van Halen song.
Okay, all right.
But in the bass, easy, not in the guitar. And I play bass like almost my entire life. Yeah. And I started playing guitar like 3 years ago, something like that. I always play a little bit, but I started practicing guitar, and I started because of Rocksmith. Rocksmith, I always play bass, but because of Rocksmith, I bought a guitar and start to learn how to
Yep.
play guitar. And then I bought my beautiful flying V, the
Yeah.
model of my dream.
Let's take a look. I think we're gonna see it in action pretty soon. But let's take a
Yes.
look. What you got?
Yeah, it's a iPhone. I love it.
Ooh.
It's a Corina model,
Okay.
and that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Wait, we didn't see the body. We didn't see the body.
Yeah, get that in view.
Oh, that's killer.
Oh yeah.
Great.
What's on the side? Did I just see the strap, or what? Is there something on the side? Oh, I see. It's the back plate.
It's a kid's
Yeah.
Oh, it's a kid's
China
channel.
title.
Gene Simmons.
Nice. I do have a question. This one is actually from Francois Luang SF, who is normally in the Ubisoft San Francisco studio. He wants to know if Luis, if Tofu ever gets to play on the Brazilian stream. Tofu visited our studio a few months ago, and he was on stream. I think you mentioned that before the call.
Yeah, I
Does he
saw
ever
it.
show up? Does he ever show up on the Brazil SF, or sorry, the Brazil Ubisoft Brazil stream?
No, he
No.
never,
Not allowed.
never showed that.
All right.
Because we the stream it's a little off of the time the work time. It's a little late for him, so when he starts streaming, he's already home.
Gotcha. Okay. I understand that from when I was in North Carolina, moderating then. I think right now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna briefly say goodbye to Lewis and Rye. We're gonna do an Ernie Ball giveaway, and then we're gonna get to see Lewis perform some. So thank you for being here. We'll see you guys very soon. But right now, if you were in the chat live, please listen to UB Jurassic for instructions on how you can win this Ernie Ball prize pack, which includes everything that you see on your screen, including 2 sets of strings. That's a 6-string set of regular slinkies, along with a 4-string set for your bass. You will also receive a dozen picks from Ernie Ball. You're going to get 3 picks of the Spectrum Plectrum variety from us here in Ubisoft San Francisco. You will also get an Ernie Ball guitar strap in black, a package of Ernie Ball Wonder Wipes, and a peg winder from Ernie Ball. All of that can be yours if you win. As has been the case these past few months, we will be shipping these out once we return to the office. We do not have an ETA on that at the moment, but as soon as we get in there, we're going to try to get all of these prizes out as quickly as possible. So we appreciate your patience on that. And if you win, you will receive a whisper from UB Jurassic. Once more, that is Brian Turner, our community manager in North Carolina. He will get from you your name, your shipping address, and your telephone number. As always, we need all of that information in order to get your prize to you. So good luck on that. And right now, let's take a look at Lewis playing through the first of his 2 songs. After that, we're going to see Brian Chu once more. Yeah, enjoy that, and we'll see you back live right after that.
Hello everyone, my name is Luis. I'm the community manager of Just Dance and Rocksmith here in Brazil, and I play bass since I was 10 years old, and I started to play guitar for like 2 years ago, something like that. I love to play video games, and I love rhythm games as well. Sometimes I stream on my Twitch channel, that is twitch.tv/LuisDeVerde, something like that. In Portuguese makes more sense than in English. And my Instagram is Luis De Verde too. And I will play 2 songs for you, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much.
call love. Just listen to the rhythm of my heart. There's a chance we can make it now. When I look into the sun goes down, I believe in a thing called love.
What's up, y'all? It's Brian here with another tip of the week, and today we're going to go over some phrasing stuff. So a big difference between an experienced lead player and a beginner is usually phrasing based, just kind of how you're expressing the idea. A professional will have a lot of additional subtleties to how they're manipulating notes, while a beginner might just play a lick or a melody more or less straight. So let's take this melody, for example. Just something really simple. We're going to take 8, 7, 5 on the E string, down to 5 on the B string, and then back up to 5 on the E string. So that sounds like this. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a nice little melody. But we can do a lot of things with that to make it sound more personal, some more expressive. So what you can do, let's just start with a slide on the first note. We can basically slide from the 7th fret into the 8th fret, and that gives us this. That already sounds way better. Why not do a slide from above? We don't always have to slide from below, and we can make it really extreme. So don't be afraid to mess around with like crazy stuff. Let's slide from like way up here or something. Right? That sounds really cool. Very different than this. Cool. Why don't we slide into that last note as well? I'm going to start with a downward slide and then end with an upward slide like this. Really cool. That already sounds way better. Or you can think of slides and bends similarly too. Like you can always bend into the notes the same way that you slide into them. So let's take this, for example. Instead of sliding from the 7th fret into the 8th fret, let's bend that note. And then instead of sliding from the 3rd fret down here to the 5th fret, at the very end, let's bend the 8th fret on the B string. So instead of this, now we have this. You can even combine the two. How about sliding from up top and then bending at the very end? Really nice. Add some vibrato in there. That always sounds good. You can add some hammer-ons and pull-offs. So why not do something like this? So what we're doing there is we're sliding up from the 7th fret into the 8th fret, then coming back down to the 7th fret, and then hammering on the 8th fret, and then pulling off to the 7th fret. And then back down to the 5th fret. You don't just have to add those little flourishes in the beginning and the end too. You can add stuff in the middle. So why don't we do something in the middle there? We'll start pretty normally. And then from here, why don't we just hammer on the 6th fret? I know that's not really technically in the key of what we're doing. It's basically a wrong note, but it makes for a really cool sound like this. You can also hammer on the 7th fret. Let's see how that sounds. And then when we kind of combine it with the other techniques, it might sound something like this. That was cool. I accidentally bent up and hit another note, and that made it a lot dirtier. So that can also be a technique you use to add some attitude or extra expression, like depending on what you want to go for, right? Like if you really want to go hard and just make that bend extra dirty, you can hit some extra another string and really nail that. Just shake them together. What else can we do? You can take what we've already had, some of those bends, and do some things with your right hand instead. So maybe add pinch harmonics in between that. That's a bit of overkill maybe, but so yeah, already sounding 10 times better than just this easy, or even like I guess a beginner lead player might just, be kind of stuck doing, which it's not wrong or not terrible. It's just, it's not as interesting as adding all this other stuff. You can add tapped harmonics, maybe something like this. And right there, I'm just tapping a whole octave above this note. So that would be tapping at the 20th fret after I bend the 8th fret. Which is a really cool sound. Let's see what else I could do. You can just kind of go overboard. So from our kind of bend slides lesson a couple weeks ago, I'm bending from the 7th fret, kind of bending back down, and then quickly sliding up to the 8th fret, and then back down to the 7th fret like this. So yeah, that's just like a really simple concept. I mean, it's a simple melody, but hopefully from that lesson, that quick lesson, you could see how much stuff you can actually do to improve your phrasing and to just like be more expressive with what you're trying to do. So cool. I'll see you next week, maybe. And yeah, catch you later.
And welcome back to the live portion of today's Rocksmith developer stream. I am still Doug Lilly, your host and community developer for Rocksmith. My home internet is threatening to give out, but as of right now, we're holding steady, knock on wood. Maybe you heard that. Right now, we want to give away, well, actually, first, before I give anything away, before we do a raffle, thank you once more to Brian Chu for sending us another tip this week. If anybody of you out in the chat right now or watching this later, if you have questions or if you're curious about something, either technique wise or theory wise, please let us know. You can let us know in the chat. Brian Turner will get those to us, and if we don't answer them in the chat, maybe we'll make a video about it. Maybe we'll talk to you about it a bit more at length. Or if you're watching this recording, hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. We are at Rocksmith Game on Twitter and Instagram, and on Facebook it's facebook.com/Rocksmith. So yeah, let us know what you want to know, because we don't know what you don't know until you let us know if you know what you don't know. We'll figure it out. Right now, I want to give away 5 copies of the 80s Mix Song Pack 6 on Steam. That song pack, I had what was in it pulled up, and I will have it in just a moment. That 80s Mix 6 includes Poison, Aha, and Georgia Satellites. So if you want to win a copy of that song pack on Steam, please listen to UB Jurassic for instructions in the chat right now for your chance to win 1 of 5 copies of that in this raffle. Good luck on that. And coming up right now, we are going to revisit Lewis, and then after that, we are going to hear from Greg Studley. He's going to talk a little bit about linear scales, which is probably going to be more interesting than it sounds on the front end, unless you know what linear scales are and you need to know how to work those, in which case you're already interested, and we have just the thing for you. So stick around for those, and we'll be back live with Lewis and Rye right after that.
I lived alone. My mind was blank. I needed time to think, to get the memories from my mind. What did I see? Can I believe that what I saw that night was real and not just fantasy? Just what I saw in my old dreams were the reflections of my Walkman staring back at me. 'Cause in my dreams, it's always there, the evil face that twists my mind and brings me to despair.
Hey everybody, Greg Studley here from Rocksmith. Today I wanted to go over a couple different ways you can look at scales on the neck of the guitar. The most obvious way that people use for thinking about scales and seeing them on the instrument is by containing them in what's kind of like a little box of 4 to 5 frets, right? So you could, for example, say, well, I want to work with a D minor scale, and so you can go up to the 10th fret, and you got yourself a finger pattern that's going to lay out the scale. Now you can put these scales in all different places for all different keys, honestly, you know, to make it fit whatever you're playing, but usually that's how people think about it, is in blocks. But you can also think of scales going across the strings, and that would be more of like a linear way to think about it, where you're not really switching strings to play all the notes, but you're moving across the strings. And there are some cool advantages to doing that, especially when you're soloing, because you can kind of connect yourself across the neck of the guitar from shape to shape. So we're going to take specifically the D minor scale, the one I just played here in 10th position, and rather than playing it just in a position, we're actually going to play it across all the strings. So the way you need to do this for any particular scale you're playing is realize the distance between each note, because that distance is going to tell you how far you need to move across the string. So this D minor scale uses a specific pattern of what we would call whole steps and half steps. Just a real crash course in it. A whole step you could think of as being 2 frets, and a half step you could think of as being a single fret difference. So if we were to map out a minor scale, and we'll start on the note D, this could also be called, for those of you familiar with modes, this could also be called the Aeolian mode. To map it out in terms of whole steps and half steps, this is what we get. You have a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Once again, the pattern. Whole, half, whole, half, whole. Now, knowing that pattern is going to allow you to know the distance you need to move every time you're playing it on the string. So, I'm going to do it on each string and show you how you can use that same distance mindset of note to note to get your same scale. And every single time we're going to do it in the same key of D minor. So, we're going to start off on the low E string. Here's your 10th fret for the note D, and every time we will start on the root because that's the easiest way to kind of view the pattern. Sounds like the same scale. If we're to do it on the A string, you're going to start on fret 5 and do the same distance pattern. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. On the D string, you're going to start with the open string. When you want to do it on the next string, you're going to start the scale an octave higher. Still going to start on the note D. Here it starts on the 7th fret. But the pattern is still the same. The distance from note to note is identical every single time. Now this is kind of a different way to think, where we're not really thinking in a spot, but we're thinking the neck of the guitar actually encompasses the entire shape now. So there's a couple cool ways once you get this down of how you can apply it, which is the next part. You go, okay, well, I've got a scale, I figured out how to play it. Now, how am I going to apply this to a song? I'm going to show you 2 ways you can apply these scales, and we'll keep it all in the same key. What I'm going to do is use the D minor scale based upon the B string for most of what I'm doing. So these are the frets I'm going to be using here. In fact, I'll probably even walk it up a little higher just to get a little extra range there. So one of the methods you can use, and I'll start this here right on the root, on the note D there. So one of the methods you can use for this is doing a hammer-on, a pull-off, and a slide. And the slide is going to be into the next lower note of the string. Because you really don't want to just kind of, like that's, don't do that when you're soloing. Just don't do that. But what you can do is hammer on, pull off, slide, and then just repeat that pattern. So if I'm to start here on the root D, 15th fret, you get this. And then you repeat the pattern. Now at that tempo, you're probably like, I've never really heard anyone do that when soloing, but if you speed it up, I bet it's going to sound pretty familiar. Probably heard somebody play that before. Another method you can use, and it actually goes through the sequence a little bit faster, is if you just start off, and again here we'll start at the root with the third finger, is if you just do a pull-off and a slide. Rather than doing the hammer-on pull-off slide, you just get rid of the hammer-on and you do pull-off slides. You get this. And just keep repeating that pattern. Pull-off, slide, pull-off, slide, pull-off, slide. Again, when you start speeding these up, you start to recognize, oh, people play these things before. So you could practice it on its own, just to kind of get it down, and then when you want to apply it, ideally you want to say, okay, I've got my hand in a position, and I've got a target position I want to get to. This is a really good way to kind of think about it like you're connecting the dots. So you could be soloing all the way up here, all the way, and you want to get an octave lower. You want to get here, okay? So you're up here at the 17th fret, and you want to get yourself all the way down to the 5th fret. Well, it's a pretty big jump if you're just to jump it. But if you're to use these connecting sequences, then it actually creates a really nice transition from one location to another. Doesn't mean you always want to do it. Sometimes it's good to just jump, or sometimes it's good to do a cool slide down there. But if you want to connect everything along the way, you can do it that way. And you just connect yourself all the way through until you land at your new position, and then you're there and you can keep soloing from that point. So think about scales not only as a position on the guitar, but across the guitar to see if you can utilize some of these new sounds that'll get you from location to location while you're soloing. Hope it helps out.
And welcome back to the live portion of today's Rocksmith developer stream. Once more, I'm Doug Lilly, but I'm not what's important right now. Who is important is our guest today, Ryken and Luis Mendes. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I want to say again, thank you to Greg Studley for those other tips. Again, if anybody in the chat has questions for us, or if there's other information like that you would like to see in the future, please reach out to UB Jurassic here in the chat, or contact us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or our forums, which you can find at rocksmith.com. Anyway, back to our guests, Luis and Rye. So I wanted to ask you both, Rye, I know you gig. I know that you play with others pretty frequently. Luis, I don't know what your sort of history with playing with bands or playing with friends has been. You've been playing bass for a very long time, so I imagine at some point you've sort of played with others. What's your, can you give us sort of the highlights if you've had those sort of experiences?
I
never have.
No, I actually have some gigs. I tried to make some bands.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any, and I'm lucky to find a group of people that is committed to get the music and pay for the studio.
Right.
To make Judas Priest and Halloween, the band. Halloween.
Yeah. Okay.
I tried to make this band covers, but none of them.
So yeah, I noticed in both of your performances, you went a little off script. You did some fills. You did some improv there.
Yes.
Which again, I always appreciate when I hear somebody sort of like take that chance to really like make that their own. I want to ask both of you, how do you feel? How do you approach improvisation when you're writing and recording versus when you are performing, if you've had sort of the opportunity to have either of those experiences? Like, is there a mental distinction from when you're first crafting a song and kind of laying it down and solidifying it as a sort of somewhat static piece of music versus when you're like, once you've known the song for years and you're playing it live and you just want to have fun and change it up a little bit? Is there a different?
I never recorded anything in like a label, but when I play, I like to improve, to improvise something, because it's like it's my vision of the song. I don't like I don't like I understand, but I don't like the bass player that's only on the root note. Dun, 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 dun. But I understand why they're making this.
Right.
I saw some interviews like Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen was always like making some solos, like improvisation, and someone have to make the harmonic, and this one is the bass player.
Right.
But but uh, uh, the improvisation, it's like your vision of the song that you are playing, but you have to know how to improvise. You don't, if you're a guitar player and you are playing like a country
Yep.
song,
Sure.
and you start like soloing like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Steve Vai, and you're screwing the song. So it doesn't
So-
combine.
right. So don't throw Stevie Ray Vaughan solos into your bluegrass tune. So or do and see where it goes. I think.
Can you bend strings on a banjo?
Yes, I was trying to say Steve Vai, but
Okay. Right. Do you have?
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
Please.
I found that when you're actually recording or composing in the studio, it's really less improvisation. It's more about like finding cool parts depending on when you're writing a song, for me, I'm not thinking about anything but like, let me just get a vibe going and, put together some parts that sound cool. Not even really any thought into it. As far as like, if the song you're recording has a solo, and then, you practice different things, like I will practice for the recording session. Like you're with your band, you're at home, you may probably, work out your solo, or at least have a basic idea, like where you're going to start, where you're going to end, and it's not going to be exactly the same every time, but like that's sort of like controlled improvisation, I guess. And then you get in the studio and it's like there's usually like a producer standing over you commenting on what you're doing, and you got your other band members
commenting on what you're doing.
Commenting on what you're doing. It's just like leave, But at the end of the day, you'll get a take you like, and then I think that's great, because once you do, like, you're spending extra time to get the album solo great.
Yeah.
That way, when you do the tour, you can always fall back on the solo on that album. You don't necessarily have to do that, but if it's like has a great lick here, or has like some kind of signature part, you can always include that. But it's less about having everything be perfect. Now, that's for like, I'm talking about like if you're in a band playing like set songs. I'm not talking if you're like Steve Vai or Joe Satriani going on an instrumental tour. I can't even fathom what's going on through those guys' heads, because that's just on another level. But I think there's a difference between truly improvising, where you're just like playing off the top of your head, stream of consciousness, and sort of like variating on what you've already composed. And both are useful approaches.
Do you believe in happy accidents in as far as like writing music or writing parts?
Absolutely. That's a good. I've never heard that summed up like that, but I agree. I believe. I'm a believer.
I mean, because I feel like there may be some people who think that, like, because there's happy accidents, and then there's sort of like R&D, like research and development, where you're just trying different things. But like I think there was one time where, not to call him out, but I think I was playing on the stream with David Stevens, and I think he may have hit one string off, but it sounded amazing, and I wanted that to be part of the song. I think it was one of the Ghost tunes. Like from then on out, I just wanted that to be how the song actually went, because that little happy accident just like triggered that, like, oh, what's that? Like, where's that going? So yeah. I
think more in older recordings, probably before the advent of Pro Tools, where everything is perfect now. And so, you're kind of stuck with that tape, you have a chance to redo it, but it's not like you can like do 20 takes and like have it land in the exact thing. I mean, my dad's was a musician, so when he was back from another era, when if you wanted to make a change like that, you actually had to bring a razor out and cut the tape. So you
Right.
gotta cut the 2-inch tapes. You're like, do you
Right.
really want to do that? Is it worth it? This is a real thing. He said there used to be a record company guy that had like a fancy box, and he'd pull it out like it was big dramatic, and he'd have like this customized razor kit, and he'd be like, all right, we got to call in this guy.
It's like
Specialist.
you're like your song surgeon.
Early
Just
cut and paste. Yeah.
Well, I saw a video a few months ago. I really regret that I can't remember who put it out, but they were reviewing old, basically effects methods from when people were recording on reel to reel. So like your chorus reverb, like how those were performed or created in a studio before you could just plug in a chorus pedal, where you had to like sort of layer the tape and go back, or just affect the speed. And I think that sort of that very visceral, like getting in and mechanically changing the sound is really interesting and something that you don't see a lot of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Plus you're coming up with totally original, unique sounds, which is what you don't get from using a plugin, right? That's just
right.
Everybody's going to have the same parameters, but like, yeah, that's definitely true.
Okay. Did you have something, Lewis?
No, I saw a documentary about Lemmy from Motorhead live.
Yeah.
And in a point of that documentary, he speaks about his tune, and it's just the gain and the volume and the maximum, and he plays a lot. He never used a distortion pedal or anything like that. He
just like natural overdrive from pushing the amp a bit past. Okay. Yeah, that's another one. Just even overdrive, like before there were overdrive pedals, you just turned it up. You just played it louder than it was supposed to go.
And then
do you guys know the legend of the guitar tone and "You Really Got Me" by the Kinks, where they actually took a razor and sliced the speaker?
Yes,
no.
I heard about it.
Destroyed the speaker to get that gnarly tone. That was like one of the earliest distortions.
Wow.
I heard that was created by Jimi Hendrix.
Really?
I don't know if it's true. Yeah.
is it music lore is what we're going into right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess anything to just give it an edge, make it not crackly, but yeah, distort it. That's
back in the days where you had to just turn your amp up to an ear-splitting level to hear the overdrive, because they didn't have master volumes. Nowadays you can synthesize that, or you can buy an amp attenuator and just let your amp just go to the all the way, but
sure,
not that much is coming out of the speaker.
All right. Well, I think we're about ready to do our final giveaway for today. Lewis, I assume people here are welcome to watch the Ubisoft Brazil streams. Are those still going on right now, or are they on break during?
We are making a little different because we are hiring some influencers to stream our channel. We are not streaming, but sometimes I'm streaming in my channel. That's Luis De Verde, the one in the chat. But not. I need to stream more.
Okay. Well, yeah. Feel free to make sure people see your name in the chat. Luis De Verde.
Yes.
Is that what it was? And
That's
Brian,
right.
I know you've got. We were talking about gigs and how there aren't gigs going on right now. Anything you want to plug today?
I got nothing.
Plug just feeling good about yourself, being happy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both very, very much for being here. And I hope we'll see you again back on the stream very soon. I also want to thank Greg Studley and Brian Shu for their contributions, along with Dan Emmerich for running the board, and Brian Turner for managing all the chat and raffles. Speaking of raffles, we've got one last one to do for the day. This is for the second of 2 Ernie Ball prize packs. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you very soon. But if you want to win everything that you see on your screen, now is your chance. If you enter figured it out. I was muted. I don't know when I did that. So yeah, please enter to win everything that you see here. I don't know how I muted myself since I wasn't on that screen when it happened, but here we are. Hopefully you can hear me now and enter everything. Oh, you can. Enter everything you can see here. You know where it is. Thank you to Ernie Ball for supplying these. Again, these prizes will be shipped out once we are able to return to the office and get those back to you. I don't know if if I was muted when I said this, but thank you again, Dan Amrick, for running the board. Thank you to Brian Turner for handling the raffles and the chat to our side here. And thanks to our chat guests, Bry Kin and Luis Mendes, and Brian Shu and Greg Studley for some educational tips. We will see you next week. We'll be back next Thursday for another mostly live stream, and with some other pre-recorded bits, and we'll have a different guest. So look forward to seeing you then. Good luck on the raffle, and be safe. See you soon.